Hello, my name is John Temitope Kolawole from Stellenbosch University, South Africa, Civil Engineering Department. I'll be presenting my paper titled Role of Rheology in the Plastic Cracking of Early Age Concrete. This is me. These were my supervisors, Brian Combrick and Billy Boshoff. This is my presentation outline, and to the presentation, I'll give a brief background and concept. First, plastic concrete. We know that when we mix these four basic elements, we have fresh concrete. But then, with the fresh concrete, at this initial stage, it's fluid with rheological properties. And during this period, the hydration is dormant, so mainly the form of structuration occurs as a form of thixotropy, which is reversible, which is the main source of strength. And as hydration continues, the viscous properties continue to reduce, as the fluid properties continue to reduce, while elastic properties start to increase. That is, it has pronounced viscoelastic properties, and then later on more of elastic properties when it hardens up. Then the question comes to mind: when does these plastic properties tend to end? It is generally assumed to be around the final setting time. Now to plastic cracking. There are two forms of plastic cracking. The first being plastic settlement cracks, in which the particles in the concrete settle, and due to differential or settlement or entrance to this settlement, cracks could occur. The second being plastic shrinkage cracking, in which bleed water, in which pour water within the concrete evaporates and then leading to creased cracks such as this. And funnily, if you leave your concrete long enough, you could even see weeds growing within them. So the question comes to mind: why study the all of this? Being that the rheological and viscoelastic properties, viscoelastic properties are intrinsic properties of the concrete, and plastic cracking are due to external factor. But all of these they occur within the same time period, usually up to the final setting time, and therefore there is bound to be the interaction between them, and this is the cause of the study. Therefore, this research was formulated in four phases to exhaustively characterize the rheological properties of fresh concrete, focus on thixotropy and structuration. The second being to characterize the viscoelastic behavior of fresh and plastic concrete using a rheological method, that is dynamic shear rheometry was used. And the third being investigating the plastic cracking behavior of concrete and practically linking this to rheology as an initial step towards conceptualizing rheological approach to plastic cracking. And then the final step or phase of the study was use a novel real mechanics approach to predict the plastic cracking of concrete. Other details were that we needed to formulate concrete mixes with varied real-related properties, but similar added properties. And then shear rheometry was therefore used to characterize the plastic face of the concrete. And also we intended to reveal that the settlement of concrete is shear related phenomenon, and is influenced and influences other process involved in plastic cracking behavior. Therefore, the studies idealized as days in which between the time of mixing towards the initial set is majorly plastic settlement, and the majorly shear is characterizable by shear geometry, and after that upwards we usually have plastic shrinkage, although they are both interlinked, with overlaps, and this time period is usually characterizable by tensile test. And also looking at these are some of the results of this study and some other studies in our from our unit. And you can see that during this early period, they have more shear strength and shear properties, while lower tensile properties. The concrete has lower tensile properties, and therefore this study is mainly um, focused on this part of the concrete in which the concrete is in its plastic phase and up to the initial setting time. The governing phenomenon for the framework is that we idealize a simple stone with gravitational force acting on it and some buoyancy force, and then the downward force governing the settlement is given by these. And then also we have when we have stones of different shapes and different particles and sizes coming together with frictional force and touching in between one another. So this is the basic part of the governing framework. Another framework we used was from creep and creep recovery and structuralization, in which basically during the loading and unloading process, some energy can be dissipated due to real related properties, and during this, and this can be measured from creep and creep recovery test. This is a typical result, and also the stress relaxation. This is a typical result, and using some of these damping factors here, they were applied to the strain and stress measured of the concrete, and then that used to predict the occurrence of plastic cracking in concrete. And the materials and method, these five mixes were formulated based on inclusion of VMA, superplasticizer, addition of both, and also increased water content. And these are the phases, the different tests measured in during each of the phase of the study, and the objective, and also parameters or properties determined during these phases. And basically, the methodology is that real viscoelastic tests were carried out using the MCR 501 rheometer with building material cell, and then the ICA rheometer, and moving between these two, while also carrying out crack testing, plastic crack testing within the inspection within the climate chamber, and then also measuring the bleeding, evaporation, capillary pressures, plastic settlement, and shrinkage, all within the plastic within the climate chamber. So this shows the research step taken for the study. And to some of the results, this is the resistance shear properties that were measured by shearometry. And interestingly, the two instruments used, both the MCR and the ICA, showed good correlated results, similar results. This, for example, is the shear yield strength from both the MCR and the ICA. And these were how these values, for example, were determined from the ICA at this point where the shear modulus study is taken as the shear modulus, and for the MCR, small amplitude oscillatory shearing, it was determined from the storage modulus and the loss modulus. The structuration of the concrete by rheometry was determined up to 30 minutes, and then it was extrapolated forward by using Kawashima model. To the real viscoelastic properties, these are some of the typical results from the creep and creep recovery tests, showing the creep compliance and the damping factor earlier showed in the governing framework. And then this is the stress relaxation result, also showing the relaxation factors. This is a typical plastic cracking behavior in which we have capillary pressure starting to rise when evaporation exceeds the bleeding here, and then also from that point onward, the shrinkage also begin to rise, while the concrete, for example, later starts cracking at 130 minutes after exposure to the climatic chamber. So simple statistical result was used to find relationship between some of the plastic cracking process, that is shrinkage settlement and capillary pressure, with the real physical properties, and these are just typical results. And we were able to find a good relationship occur between both, depending on the time considered. For example, a plastic shrinkage at 50 minutes, there was no good relationship, because at 50 minutes there was little or no shrinkage already occurring. Well, at that time, settlement has well occurred, and at 50 minutes of settlement, we have good relationship. And for using von Mises NK theory, we were able to predict well the occurrence of plastic cracking, taking into cognizance related properties that causes strain dissipation, and then using Bresler-Pista theory, the theory will either under predict or over predict the occurrence of plastic cracking. More details of some of these results can be found in these already published studies. You can check them out online. Now to the conclusions. Um, some of the basic conclusions are these: that the origin of rheological influence of concrete on its plastic cracking behavior can be tied to the self-settlement. The settlement is the major origin of rheological influence of concrete. The yield stress and thixotropy is inversely linked to the plastic settlement. Then the plastic settlement, which is in turn linkable to other plastic process, carries over the influence of the rheology. And also that from the creep recovery, strain dissipation is dependent on concrete admixtures and tend to reduce the propensity for crack initiation. Structuralization, on the other hand, is intrinsic but explains less the crack initiation of plastic concrete. Also, that the initiation of plastic cracking in settlement phase tends to be strain oriented, shear dominated, and pressure insensitive. Thank you for listening.